is the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Palmer.
I know you keep talking about going after millionaires and billionaires, but you're also going after Taylor Swift fans who sold their tickets for over $600. The previous rule was if someone earned $20,000 and had more than 200 transactions, you did it. But you lowered it. But the bill lowered it $600 regardless of the number of transactions. So it's not just millionaires and billionaires. You're also going after auditing small businesses and others. And I just want to point out something to you. One of your predecessors, John Koskinen, testified before this committee in 2015, and he said it would not be advisable to audit our way out of the tax gap. Yet that's exactly what you're trying to do. I have a question for you, Commissioner Werfel. If a tax filer, if a private citizen willfully concealed or manipulated a tax document, would that be considered a form of tax fraud?
Yeah, that based on the way you described it, if they willfully manipulated to misdirect or misreport, that could be considered tax evasion.
And the penalty for that could be a fine up to $250,000 and up to 5 years in prison. Is that correct?
Well, each case
and for
differs, but the
a business, it could be up to $500,000 and 5 years in prison. Let me ask you this. If government auditors were similarly found to be backdating or manipulating tax forms of private citizens, would that also be considered a form of tax fraud?
It's concerning.
No. I ask you a direct question. If a private citizen altered information on a tax document, whether it's a date or a signature from a supervisor, it would be considered tax fraud, and it would be prosecuted. It is a felony. They could have to pay up to $250,000 in fines, and they could serve up to 5 years in prison. So what are the penalties for IRS employees who do the same thing and possibly jeopardize a private citizen on their tax filing? So what's the penalty?
Yeah, there should be accountability.
Yeah, but what? No, what is the penalty?
If you'll allow me to elaborate, I can elaborate.
Yeah, I don't want a long answer. I want you to tell me what is the penalty.
Well, there is no specific penalty. It depends on the circumstances, and it does expense on the circumstances with the taxpayers as well.
The Wall Street Journal reported on this. You're in court right now, Lake Point 2 LLC versus commissioner. The commissioner would be you where you had people who falsified documents. And that's not the only one. So did anybody get fired?
Let me tell you what's going on.
Did anybody get fired?
We are looking into the appropriate personnel.
Okay,
matters.
well,
We're
anyone get
right
fired?
Process.
Well, if you find they did this intentionally, and the documents indicate they did, because there's an email chain, and maybe, Madam Chairman, Mr. Chairman, we need to investigate this on behalf of the taxpayers, because I have major concerns about the tax gap, major concerns. The biggest problem with the tax code is its complexity. We need a simpler tax code, and I think we would collect more taxes rather than audit people, rather than manipulate tax documents so that somewhere down the line somebody who filed a legal, accurate tax return doesn't face a tax bill and potentially a penalty because somebody at the IRS falsified the document. So there's got to be some penalties.
Yeah, I can assure you, Congressman, we are taking steps to correct the record, to make the taxpayer whole, in any of those situations, and they are extremely limited, we are taking all the right steps and all the right procedures to make sure that that situation is corrected.
Will anybody
if there's any accountability, we will follow the right procedures to ensure accountability.
Will anybody be fired? If they're, thank you.
I'm not going to comment on an employee process.
If you find out that it was done intentionally, as the evidence indicates, keeping in mind the severity of the penalties that are imposed on private citizens, the least that anybody can expect is that someone be dismissed from their job. And I hate to say that because I hate to fire anybody. The consequences for their families. But think about the lack of trust that the American people have in the IRS and put that first and foremost. I yield back.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes Ms. Norton for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate